Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to have kept you waiting. Despite the hours being very late in the evening, we're most appreciative for all of you to be here with this heavy turnout. We would like to now begin the press conference. At the beginning, Mr. Saikawa, Nissan CEO, will deliver comments. Mr. Saikawa, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for coming all the way to Yokohama late at night, and I'm sorry to keep you waiting for so long. I have some points to talk about today, but in fact today, as you may be aware, Renault has introduced its new leadership, and that has been the discussion. So we have been waiting for the conclusion. So that is why it's late at night. I'm sorry. And today, the intent of this press conference is to talk about Nissan's governance, what we are going to do until the AGSM shareholders meeting that is scheduled in June. But before that, one hot news, Renault decided on the new leadership. And as been announced, today, Renault's board appointed Mr. Jean-Dominique Snar as its chairman, and Thierry Bolloré is appointed CEO. This has been the resolution of the board of Renault. For us, our big partner and significant shareholder, this was a significant step forward. In November, since the case happened, the communication, especially the communication between the boards of the two companies, have been a bit difficult. Going forward, I'm looking forward to a better communication. And in the bigger picture, alliance with Renault or partnership with Renault, from this perspective, this is a big milestone that we are reaching, and we are starting a new chapter. So it's a one step forward towards the new chapter. So I welcome this new leadership of Renault. Going back to the main point, I would like to talk about the timeline. The other day, Special Committee for Improved Governance has been established. And by the end of the roadmap towards the end of March has been indicated, and including the special committee schedule, I would like to talk about what we are going to do until the end of June when we are scheduling the AGSM, how we are going about the governance structure. I will briefly show you the timeline, which is distributed to you, I believe. In this chart in front of you, the Special Committee for Improving Governance has started a deep and active discussion. And towards the end of March, this study will be complete. And based on this conclusion, in April and May, Nissan will digest it, look into it, and explore the new governance structure. New means the structure of the board meeting as well as other processes. It's a diversified aspect that we are going to explore. In April and March, Nissan will digest this. And in the end of June, we are going to propose it at the shareholders meeting. That's our plan. And that's the understanding of the Special Committee for Improving Governance. And Renault made a big change in its leadership. And as people were talking about, Nissan's directors, in order to replace the directors of Nissan, whether to organize EGSM extraordinary shareholders meeting has been attracting attention because Renault is making a big change. Timeline-wise, there's a difficulty or challenge, but here, as fast as possible, the new leader of Renault, the new chairman, I want him to be involved in our board. And as I said, in the timeline or roadmap that I shown you, we would like to proceed with the governance development, involve the new leader of Renault to hold a discussion together and work together with us. So in the board meeting going forward, we need to hold discussion and officialize it. But as soon as possible, we would like to hold an extraordinary shareholders meeting. We will have limited agenda for this extraordinary shareholders meeting. In other words, Mr. Carlos Ghosn and Mr. Greg Kelly, we dismiss these two gentlemen and propose Mr. Sanar, the new chairman of Renault, to be a director of Nissan board. It will be a limited agenda for the extraordinary shareholders meeting. The other bigger changes should wait for the recommendation by the Special Committee for Improving Governance. We'll wait for the conclusion of the Special Committee to talk about the other larger changes at Nissan. So as I said, this master schedule will remain unchanged, and EGSM will be organized based on the limited agenda. That's what we are going to discuss on as a direction. Once we do this, if we pursue this direction, as I said, in April and May, we'll hold a discussion about the governance of Nissan, and we can involve Mr. Sanar in this discussion on the governance of Nissan. That concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer your questions now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to start the Q&A session. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We will bring you a microphone, so please use your microphone to ask a question. Thank you. Please limit yourself to 2 questions per person, if I may. Thank you for your kind understanding. Let us start the Q&A. Yes, starting from that person over there. Yes. NHK Hayakawa is speaking now. I am Hayakawa of NHK. Excuse me. I'm here. Yes, thank you. Saikawa-san, you couldn't stop the misconduct by Mr. Ghosn, and you actually allowed Nissan to be indicted as a company. You have a heavy responsibility to assume. What are you going to do about your position going forward? Yes. Yes, certainly, governance issue. Because the fact that we are in this situation means that the top management in the past, including myself, have a heavy responsibility to take. And you talk about whether I'm resigning or taking consequences. There are 2 responsibilities that should be assumed. One is, as you said, assuming the consequences, assuming the responsibilities about what happened in the past. And within the current situation, I need to fulfill my responsibility to do what should be done. The situation in which Nissan is in, I have a lot of challenges. So first, I would like to focus on fulfilling my responsibility to do the things that should be done in this situation and think about taking the consequences later. Okay, another question about the timeline going forward. Board director will take place in the middle of April, and you are going to also decide the position of Mr. Sanar or new member from the Renault at this board meeting. Excuse me, I didn't. What you see in this timeline, middle of April, this is the ordinary regular schedule of board of directors meeting. So there we will talk about the homework on governance. Okay, we will hold discussions before that as well, but we will have a deep discussion in the middle of April about governance, and by the end of May, we will consolidate the recommendation and we propose it officially at the shareholders meeting in June. And the extraordinary shareholders meeting, AGSM, about the replacement of some directors if we are to do the EGSM to replace a limited number of directors, This will probably take place around maybe second week of April if we are to organize an EGSM to replace the directors. And there, we will replace the directors at that time. So under this new leadership or directors, among the new board members in April and May, we hold a discussion on governance and propose a structure in the end of June at the shareholders meeting. So in April, when we do a EGSM, external shareholders meeting, we only talk about the replacement of directors. That's the only agenda for EGSM. Thank you.
はい、次の質問。
Next question, please. The person at the very front row. Toyo Keizai, my name is Kishimoto. First question. The other day, according to press reports, it was mentioned that the French government is proposing to the Japanese government officials the integration of Nissan and Renault. And has that similar proposal been forwarded to Nissan? And if so, if such proposals had been made to Nissan, what's the current position of Nissan? I'm aware that such reports had been made, but no, we have not received any proposal as such at Nissan. As I've repeated many times, the alliance means that each member is to develop, and it's a platform for each member of the alliance to develop. And for that alliance, we are working day in and day out. And that kind of task in the future has to be stabilized and guaranteed with the alliance platform, and that's our highest priority. And that kind of what would be the ideal structure for the future, that's not the kind of agenda item that we ought to be taking up right now, because now is the timing when we should continue to do what we are doing day in, day out, win-win, maximize synergy by respecting the identity of each other. And based upon such basic principle, short-term, mid-term, and long-term stable environment ought to be created or maintained. And I think that's the biggest challenge ahead of us. And therefore, that is why we want to build trust and good communications relationship between the boards of each company. That's the highest priority issue.
真ん中の。
Yes, the person in the middle, please. Yes, over here. Yes.
朝日新聞
Asahi Shimbun, Takahashi is speaking now. Earlier, Mr. Saikawa, you said that since Mr. Gon was arrested, Nissan and Renault's board meeting members had a hard time to communicate with each other. That's what you indicated. But now, under the new leadership of Renault, you expect the communication to get better. So far, why was the communication became harder? What makes you think that the communication will be better with the new leadership? One factor is that in November, Nissan's board for the future, Nissan's board in front of this misconduct or event that we discovered, we made a big decision as Nissan's board, whereas Renault board, rather than the entire event that has been discovered, they were seeing what will be the outcome of the trial or the judicial procedure. So there was a gap in terms of when we went on to the next step. In such situation, it has been two months has passed, and there were two things within Renault. For the new leadership, they made a big change towards the new leadership. And as a result, from Nissan's viewpoint, we believe that Renault's new leadership or new structure is more obvious. So in that sense, it was a positive step forward. So that is why Nissan Nissan believes that we will be able to do a very positive looking, forward looking discussion with a partner. There's another thing that I would like to ask you. Nissan and Mitsubishi Motors discharged Mr. Gon, whereas Renault didn't discharge him. Mr. Gon gave in the resignation letter. How do you perceive this? Well, this is the decision by Renault, so Nissan cannot make a comment on it. However, Nissan's board, the resolution by Nissan board are decided by all the board members of Nissan. So we believe that there was a case that corresponds to a discharge or dismissal. So this was an agreement on consensus. Mitsubishi Motors and Nissan and Renault, there are differences. That's what you indicated. But each entity has its own perception. Like Mitsubishi Motors, for example, after we established a partnership, Nissan nominated the chairman, if who was an individual nominated by Nissan, and this individual was discharged by Nissan. So Mitsubishi Motors took it seriously, I believe. But the Renault's process, I'm not aware of all the details, so I cannot make a comment about what Renault has thought or done.
はいはい。
Nico Nico Video, Nagao is my name. About the new management of Renault, you've issued a paper, but Mr. Sunar is to be appointed chairman, and you said that you wholeheartedly support that decision. The incoming chairman, Mr. Sunar, is said to be very close to the Elysee, the presidential office. But isn't that a strong reflection of influence of the government of Renault that it prioritizes its own country interest? It is said that the French government is seeking integration between Nissan and Renault, and Chairman Sunar being very close to the French government. Frankly speaking, what's your view on this? Well, whether that kind of perception exists or not, whether that's the right understanding or not, I'm in no position to make any comments. But to the extent that I am aware of, Mr. Sunar is experienced and mature businessman. And as a partner, he's a respectable person. And he's a person with whom we can have frank conversations with full transparency. That is my impression. I have no first-hand experience in doing something together with him, but he's someone whom I respect fully. So here it says fully support, but more correctly, I very much welcome this kind of decision. That's my gut feeling. Second question, Japan and France. Maybe the engagement of the government in private sector companies differ greatly between the two countries. Having said so, the single largest shareholder of Renault is the French government, and when people say that there is pressure from the single largest shareholder, what kind of support is Nissan going to be seeking from the Japanese government? Or do you think that even without the Japanese government's support, that you could go ahead without any problem? But I'm not really sure on what you are asking the question, response on what. But Nissan is a Japanese private sector company, so needless to say, on routine basis, we are supported greatly by the Japanese government. And in this context, we are expected of certain things as a Japanese private sector company, and we are bearing that obligation. And similarly, regardless of whether the government is a shareholder or not, I think even in France, the same would apply. Renault is a French company, and there is a certain mission for Renault to live up to as a French company. And the French government naturally supports French companies, and that is the same, whether it be France or Japan. And we're both in such circumstances, and we respect each other's performance as such. That's why we've been doing well in the alliance for 20 years. So that will be the mutual relationship that we will respect, and along with the support, respectively, as a French and Japanese company, respectively, both companies will live up to our missions and grow mutually.
はい、ありがとうございます。Automotive News.
Thank you. Automotive News, Hans speaking. Excuse me, I would like to speak in English.
Mr. Saikawa, earlier you have, I believe you said that you want Nissan to take a leadership role, more of a leadership role in this alliance. Can you tell us what you mean by that? Where do you think Nissan needs to play more of a leadership role? And have you talked with your French counterparts about this, and what do they say about that?
ですね、
Well, what I meant in terms of leadership or lead the alliance, leading the alliance, you mean? Well, as we try to utilize alliance in a better way and make it more effective, leverage of the alliance so that each alliance partner benefits from the alliance and to develop together, to this end, footprint, business footprint, and the size of the company. In terms of size of company, Nissan is the largest in the alliance. So rather than leading, Nissan should be actively taking part in the alliance and utilize alliance. In other words, Nissan will use the size of Nissan to be used by the partners. So Nissan will more actively or proactively work together with Renault and Mitsubishi to generate synergies. That's the attitude or mindset which is very important. For example, Renault asks to do this A, so we say, oh, A is a good idea, and Mitsubishi Motors to do B, or propose a B. And there was another proposal. So we shouldn't be reactive. Rather than waiting for the proposals from partners, we should be actively recommending to generate the synergies. This mindset used to be weak at Nissan. So in the midterm, Nissan should go more proactively, making recommendations to generate synergies. So it's about the message towards the inside of Nissan. That's what I meant by leadership. So in that sense, Renault's people are always thinking how to use the alliance. I think Renault holds deep discussion on this point, and Renault is doing a good job in this aspect. So the way Renault conceives the ideas is what Nissan should learn from and I don't know how to put it, to make sure we effectively gain benefits. That's what we want to do more. Well, we weren't able to do that much, but since last year, as I have been saying many times, LCV, light commercial vehicles, in light commercial vehicles areas, obviously we make a distinction. Okay, rely on partners. What should we rely on while we concentrate on the areas of strength? So pickup truck is done by Nissan and Mitsubishi Motors, while commercial vans is totally reliant on Renault, using Renault's assets. That's what we have been doing since last year. If we do this thoroughly, we see a big impact. So that's the mindset or attitude to do these kind of things proactively. That has been what I have been thinking. So that is why I'm encouraging Nissan people to do so. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to next person. Nikkan Kogyo Shimbun, Watanabe is speaking. Thank you for this opportunity. How did Renault explain the reason to discharge Mr. Gon? Are you aligned on the understanding on the misconduct of Mr. Gon? Well, in fact, I myself haven't heard about the contents of the discussion that took place today, so I'm not aware. But as a fact, as I have been saying, within Nissan, in November, Nissan, including the relationship with the investigations, what can be shared. We shared the internal investigation report within Nissan's board, and partially, if the other day we talked about it to. Shared some of the information of the internal investigation. So similarly, Mitsubishi Motors board meeting received the presentation of this information. Unfortunately, for the Renault board members, we were unable to have an opportunity to provide the same level of information. So I don't think we are at the same level of the amount of information that Renault Renault directors have. So we would like to continue working on it. And one homework, which is about the joint ventures, the investigation on joint venture, joint investigation on joint venture. As soon as possible, we would like to start this. But this is where we are today. Thank you.
その前から2列目
The person in the second row, please. Second row from the very front. New York Times, my name is Tabuchi. Extraordinary shareholders meeting is slated for mid-April, I understand. But from the Renault side, have they voiced their opinion that extraordinary shareholder should be held more earlier in order for a quick appointment? Why can't you hold the extraordinary shareholder meeting until mid-April? This is an extremely crucial timing. Aren't you excluding Renault from the decision making by not holding the shareholders meeting until mid-April? On the extraordinary, simply put, extraordinary shareholder meeting next week within Nissan, within the board of Nissan, official decision will be made, and that will be the launch of the process. So we've begun preparations along that timeline, but the specific preparation will commence next week. And if we go ahead as planned, then we do calculation, and it will take time for us to prepare. And according to a current estimation, at the fastest, at the earliest possible timing, it will be early April. And we're not artificially delaying the timing. Physically, this kind of time will be required for us to prepare for such meeting. And I don't have the details at hand, but several steps will have to be absorbed until we hold the extraordinary shareholder meeting. And after we make the official decision next week, we will at least need the time until early April to do the preparation. So we're not intentionally delaying the timing. No, that's not the case at all. Rather, Renault has made the decision for the new chairmanship, and having heard of that decision, we try to hold the extraordinary shareholder meeting as early as possible, and the quickest possible timing is early April, and that point is understood by the Renault management, we believe.
So, person at the front, please. Yes, Asahi Shimbun, Oshika is speaking. Saikawa-san, earlier you have seen saying that Nissan and Renault are respecting each other's autonomy and independence. And in terms of size, Nissan is the largest within the alliance. So rather than being reactive like the past, you would like to demonstrate more leadership. That's what you said earlier. On the other hand, Renault has 43% of stake in Nissan, which makes them a leading shareholder. And if you think about the denominator of all the shareholders, Renault can take the majority. In other words, once Renault has a majority, so Nissan has its own intent. But whether this will be approved or not is a no. I mean, so this Renault is an outstandingly big shareholder, and they have a shareholding ratio. And how do you see the shareholding ratio held by Renault? And you are limiting the agenda of the extraordinary shareholders meeting to only the replacement of some of the directors. This is because leading shareholder Renault says that they agree on this limited agenda. They approve or supports this limited agenda. The second question, starting from the second question here, as I said, Nissan should be working on its governance structure. Governance structure is a big topic. So until the end of June, we would like to take time to undergo the process. And this is well understood by the partner. And as I said, replacement of directors is a limited agenda. With regards to replacement of directors, we would like Renault would like to hold a meeting to replace the directors as soon as possible. And from a standpoint, new chairman of Renault, Mr. Sonar, as well, I want him to be involved in the process as soon as possible and be one of the parties concerned. So that is why the two companies' needs are aligned. So that is why physically we would like to hold the EGSM as soon as possible. And the first part, being the leading shareholder, naturally, Renault is the largest shareholder with a stake of 43% in our company. This proportion is pretty large. This is obvious. And the big shareholder Renault, and we respect Renault as a shareholder. This is a requirement or necessity. At the same time, the alliance, you were saying alliance efforts. Alliance is about Renault, Nissan, and Mitsubishi Motors respecting each other. Just because you make an investment, it doesn't make us promote the work to go faster. Rather, we are respecting each other as an equal footing partner while we are looking for win-win opportunities amongst each other and implement them. This energy or the build-up of these jobs will generate the value of the entire alliance. Based on the past experience, I believe on this structure. All the partner companies believe in this. So every day, just because I have a 43% stake, I want to do this. Or I have 15% stake, so I don't have a voting right, but I want to do this. I mean, that's not what we are discussing every day. So whether alliance effort is generating value, the yardstick here is not to be seen from the shareholders ratio. Nissan has 34%, Mitsubishi Motors, Renault has 43%, Nissan, and Nissan has 15% Renault. But this doesn't come up in the discussion. We never talk about the alliance agreement. I mean, that's alliance is just a platform to enable us to work. Collaborate in a reassured manner to generate synergies. And of course, we are conscious that they have 43% of stake in Nissan, but generating values as an alliance is based on the principle that I talked about earlier. All the partners have a strong belief in it based on the past experience.
Sean McLean from the Wall Street Journal. Apologies for the questions in English. First of all, I'm wondering if you could share anything from your discussions with the delegation from the French government and Renault who were here past couple days. Martin Viel, I believe, was in town. Anything you can share from those discussions, what generally was discussed? And secondly, I'm wondering your personal thoughts about whether or not Nissan's governance changes will also require changes to RAMA, your master agreement with the rest of the alliance.
Well, first of all, the first question. In Japanese, may I? Yes, in Japanese. The first question. You are reporting that the French state were here in Japan and there were discussions. That's what I heard from the media report. But I am not directly involved in the discussion, so I'm not in a position to make any comment with regards to the visit by the French delegation. And the second question, what was it? Governance. Governance, yes. With regards to governance, from Nissan's viewpoint, it's not about Rama. From our viewpoint, issues or this should be an issue, this may be a problem. There are some points that we are paying attention to. However, my position is that all in all, everything is included. We would like to see everything. And in this, the future governance, in building strong governance for the future, what should be changed? Or what shouldn't be done? What should be done? And what should be done for the better. These are the things that I want the Special Committee for Improved Governance to look at, especially from the outside people. I want them to express frank opinions. And using these as ingredients, we would like to hold internal discussion. Therefore, there's no taboos here. Taboo-less discussion should take place. But Rama, in fact, today, well, naturally, it's an alliance agreement, which is, how do you put it? This is at the basis of all the activities done, or this is the basis of the agreement between Renault and Nissan. So based on Rama, based on the assumption of Rama, we should discuss what should be done. But in this, because we are in this situation, there are things that we shouldn't be done. There are things that we have to pay attention to. In terms of governance, there are items that will be identified. So discussion on Rama, I'm not sure whether discussion of Rama should take place or not at this moment. But first, the 43% shareholder is there. And this is how we are operating the alliance. And within this framework, what should be revised for the better governance? What should we pay attention to? What should be done for the better governance? That should be the first focus of the discussion. Thank you.
時間ですので
We're running out of time, so two more people only. The person at the back, please. TV Tokyo. To confirm, extraordinary shareholders meeting. The person to be newly appointed is just the chairman. He's the only one to be newly appointed. And if so, why will you be discharging two people but appointing only one? What's the reason? First of all, naturally, the dismissal is for the two, and they're not functioning as board members. So as early as possible, we want to officially discharge them. So if there is an extraordinary shareholder meeting, we want to propose a resolution to dismiss them. And with regards to the change, the replacement, representative of Renault, as the chairman of Renault, he will be nominated as a board member for Nissan, Mr. Senar. And after a certain process, he will be coming as the new chairman of Renault. So that change will have to be made, and that is very meaningful as we stride for the future. And the other position to be discharged is the position that Nissan should be nominating if we follow the past practice. Nominating someone, and then after that, after the governance committee discusses that, we are thinking about it. And for that position to be nominated by Nissan, after April and May discussion, we want to fully consider the ideal profile of the person to fulfill that position and think about the best candidate for that position. That's why we will probably not be making that nomination in the upcoming extraordinary shareholders meeting. I have the right to ask another question, two questions. You yourself, Mr. Saikawa, after this issue gave rise, you've been constant. Today you said that for the tripartite alliance, you respect the identity of each other to create synergy. So to the extent we're listening to your comments, this integration between the three parties, are you thinking that integration is impossible between Nissan and Renault? Now is not the time to discuss that matter. And at the moment, is it necessary? No, I don't think it's necessary at this point in time. We're in this situation we are in today, and as I said, our mission is to stabilize our situation and grant the environment that will allow for our employees to rest assured as they continue their work. So then we have this platform today, and can we ensure stability of the same platform perpetually towards the future? That's one question, and we will continue to ask that question for ourselves. And if the platform is robust enough, then we don't have to change it. But if the platform needs some kind of reinforcement or improvement to make it even more robust towards the future, maybe that change is necessary. So, in order to guarantee stability of the activities towards the future, we need a strong platform. So, offering that kind of robust platform is one of our mandates. And that kind of question was studied in the past. We are studying and we will continue to study. But if we talk about the current platform today, the biggest priority is stabilizing the trust between us and to reinforce the current platform to maximum synergy.
の質問です。
Last question. Yes, the person in the middle, please.
読売
Yomiuri Shimbun, Nakajima is speaking. I have a couple of questions. The first question, Mr. Saikawa, talking about your responsibility. Until you fulfill the current responsibility, you want to stay in that position. When you are revising the governance of Nissan at the AGSM in June, well, it says a timeline that are you talking about beyond the AGSM in the end of June about the taking the consequence? And the second question, in the middle of April, extraordinary shareholders meeting will be held, but this seems to be different from what you have said, because first you said that you will focus on governance revision, and then you will talk about what's beyond. That's what you have been insisting many times. And that's what you have been telling your employees, I believe. And now, although the situation largely changed, suddenly you are accommodating what Renault is asking and decided to organize the extraordinary shareholders meeting. Is this a consensus for the top management of Nissan? With regards to this matter, starting from the second question that you raised, board members. Well, we haven't organized a board member, and we are talking to the board members, and we are receiving many opinions. And the biggest thing, or the major thing, what the main message that I have been sending is that, as I explained us earlier, governance, revision of governance is very important, and it's a significant theme. And this remains a major topic for Nissan, and this is the timeline that we have in front of us. And in the end of March, we asked the special committee to make a recommendation, and that's a top priority that remains unchanged. Within this framework, there's another thing. Even if we are to hold a meeting in the middle of April, Are we able to hold enough discussion on governance? No. We need to wait for the special committee's recommendation and spend April and May to digest the recommendation and make an official proposal at the end of June at AGSM. That will be the fastest timing. This remains unchanged. Having said that, two directors who should be dismissed still stay in our board. Somewhere we had to resolve this. And whether we assume that we shouldn't just prolong it until the end of June when we have the AGSM. But there was one big change at Renault. It was a management change. A new leader is appointed. And I want this new leader to be involved in this process at Nissan to look at the governance. That's our expectation. So that was determined. The new leadership is in place at Renault. So from now, if we make a decision, we can make it. We can involve him in the middle of April, which means that this new leader can be involved in the discussion that took place in April and May. So in that sense, there was a big change in Renault. That's one trigger. And rather than discussing the governance, as a preparation to hold a discussion, we are replacing directors at Nissan. So if it's allowed to organize the EGSM based on this limited agenda, we would like to do so. That's the direction that we have started discussing on. And also, about the responsibility, there are a lot of things that I have to do. Especially until June, there's a big challenge. And there's another one, the structure. We need to build the structure for beyond June. We have to put Nissan back on the track and hand over the responsibility. I'm not trying to spend time without thinking. I would like to do what I have to do and fulfill my responsibility. So it's not about by the end of June. As soon as possible, I would like to fulfill my current responsibility and be able to hand over the baton to the next leader. Thank you very much. So it's time to end. So we would like to conclude the press conference. Thank you for joining us late at night. I'm sorry to delay the start of the press conference. Thank you.